I'm Tammy Kolda, an applied mathematician, and this is Unlocking LaTeX Graphics. On this channel, I present tutorials on using TikZ and PGF plots. The videos on this channel are based on my book, Unlocking LaTeX Graphics, as well as some bonus materials. Today, I'll show how to draw a yin-yang symbol in TikZ and how to encapsulate it into a reusable node style. We will use circle nodes, arcs, and circle path operations to draw the symbol. I'll also show how to create a yin-yang node style that can be reused if you want to create multiple yin-yang symbols. To do this, I'll introduce the style option path picture that allows us to append a circle node with the extra drawing commands needed to turn it into a yin-yang symbol. Let's get started. In the preamble, I'm loading parskip, which removes paragraph indentation and instead puts a little vertical space between paragraphs. And I'm also loading hyperref, which is used to link the author name to this YouTube channel. The key package today is TikZ. We don't need any TikZ libraries for this one since arcs and circles are part of the core. Before we draw anything, let's set up our color palette, defining the colors for outline, dark, and light regions of the symbol. You could change these to any colors you like. I'm using black, cyan, and yellow. Before we draw the actual symbol, I'll show you how to construct its center divider with arcs. I have a TikZ picture here, and I'm setting the line width of every path to 3 pt and the font to large and bold for the labels we'll add soon. I so far have only one thing, a circle node named A of size 60 millimeters drawn with the outline color and filled with the light color. Because its diameter is 60 millimeters, the circle node has a radius of 30 millimeters. I'm going to start in the center and draw my first arc. Recall that the arc command takes 3 arguments: the start angle, the end angle, and the radius. The point at which the arc starts is treated as the point on the circle corresponding to the start angle. So I'm first going to draw the segment that starts in the middle of the big circle and loops rightward to the top of the big circle. This is an arc of a circle of radius 15 millimeters, so half the radius of our big circle, starting at its 270 degree mark and going to 450 degrees. If I had used 90 rather than 450, the arc would go in the opposite direction because it's drawn in the direction of increasing angle. I could have equally used minus 90 to 90 in place of 270 to 450, and the result would be the same. I've added an arrow to indicate the direction that we drew it and the label 1 so that we know this is the first segment we drew. I saved the endpoint of this arc as a new coordinate B, which we'll use for the next arc. I covered arcs in an earlier episode that I'll link in the show notes. Next, starting from B, let's trace the outside of the big circle with an arc from 90 to 270 degrees. This has a radius of 30 millimeters because it's the big circle. When I compile, you see now a blue arc tracing its way from the top of the big circle to the bottom with an arrow at its end, and I also have a label 2 so you know it's the second segment we drew. I saved the endpoint here as a new coordinate C, which we'll use for the third arc. Finally, starting from C, I'm going to draw the last arc on a smaller 15 millimeter radius circle from 270 to 90 degrees with a radius of 15 millimeters. Compiling this, we see the green arc labeled 3, and it takes us back to the center, completing our outline of 1/2 of the yin-yang symbol. I'll quickly note that there is a subtlety here about the starting point. I started in the center because it's unambiguous. If I started at a compass point, like the north point of the big circle, the thickness of the line makes a difference that has to be adjusted for. By starting in the center, I have avoided that issue. Let me change the line width here for every path to 5 point, and you can see that everything lines up really nicely. The red line, when it comes in, aligns perfectly with the outline of the circle. The blue line perfectly traces the outside. Now that we understand the 3 arcs, let's actually make the symbol. I'm going to start with a fresh TikZ picture with the outer circle node A. Then I'm going to draw all 3 arcs as a single path, one after another, starting from the center of A with the same angles and radii as I used before, except for they were in 3 separate lines, but now I'm putting them all into one line. I've dropped the arrows, labels, and coordinates because it's all in one line. I have outlined it in red so that you can see it, and I filled it with the dark color. Because it's one continuous path, TikZ closes it up and fills the whole teardrop region in one shot. I'm going to go ahead and change this red to outline, which is what I want it to be in the end. I was just using red to show you what it looks like. The last thing we need is 2 dots, which we'll draw as small circles of radius 2.5 millimeters. I covered relative coordinates with the plus notation in more detail in an earlier episode, and I will of course link that in the show notes. So here I'm starting at A center and going up 15 millimeters and drawing a little 2.5 millimeter circle in the light color, and I'm going to do the same thing going down 15 millimeters. When I compile that, we see our 2 little circles. You'll notice we keep repeating the same options. Let's tidy that up with the style. So I'm going to define a style called YY path for the line width and outline color, and this makes the code a little bit cleaner. If you want to create multiple yin-yang symbols, I have to repeat the 4 lines of code every time. That might be fine, but it would also be nice to have just one node style that does everything for us so that we can place a yin-yang symbol anywhere by just placing a node. I just pasted a bit of code. I first have a TikZ set. That's where most of the work is happening. I copied that YY path style from before. Now I'm defining a node style called Yin-Yang. Its first line is the usual stuff. I'm using YY path, setting the node shape to be a circle, setting the minimum size to 60 millimeters, and setting the fill to be light. The option path picture is something we haven't seen before. This adds extra drawing commands that are executed after the node is drawn. This is a cool way to draw on top of the node. If you use this, however, the main thing to know is that anything outside of the base node is clipped. There are other options for drawing things outside of nodes, so let me know in the comments if you want to see an episode on that. Inside the path picture, I first save the center of the path picture bounding box as coordinate C. Then I copy the code for the swirl and dots, but I replace A dot center with C in those lines. Now I can create yin-yang nodes anywhere. So let me go ahead and compile this and you'll see what we have. Probably have to zoom out here. I put 3 yin-yang nodes in a triangle and we can see that we get all 3 when I compile, even though it's a really simple path statement with just 3 nodes. So in a future episode, I'm going to create a symbol that is just a node with a horizontal curved line through its center, similar to the vertical curved line in the yin-yang symbol. I recommend that you try to create a reusable style for that symbol on your own, and then check the episode when it comes out to see how I do it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode on drawing a yin-yang symbol in TikZ. We learned how to use arcs to construct the symbol and how to create a reusable node style using the path picture option. What we currently have is for a fixed size symbol with everything hardwired. If you want to see how to do this with different sizes, line thicknesses, and colors, let me know in the comments and I can make a follow-up episode on that. But I warn you, it gets complicated. I include a link to the overleaf document I created today in the show notes. If you found this helpful or interesting, please click like or subscribe. If you have TikZ or PGFplots questions, please post them in the comments. If you want to learn more, please check out the other videos. I also have a book, Unlocking LaTeX Graphics, available for purchase at major book retailers. Thanks for watching.